Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Real Life Health Show. I'm so excited for my next guest. I've been trying to get in touch with him for a long time, but he's so busy, and I'm so thankful he came on the show. His name's Dr. Morse, and I've heard about him for the longest time. Dr. Morse, welcome to the show.
Oh, glad to be here with you. Love it.
Yes, I'm really excited to be talking to you today because you have so much wisdom and knowledge about health and healing and so on. But let's hear about you yourself. Tell us how your health is and your age and what's your current diet like.
But I'll be 73 here in another month or so. I'm probably 90% raw. I do some cooked vegetables, uh, mainly fruit. I live predominantly on fruit. I'm not too much of a vegetable eater. I was a fruitarian for a lot of years, but the energy was so insane because I deal with energy and consciousness. So you can get way out there with energy that your body just vibrates, and you got to have some. I have to have some balance, or I'm not going to be in my body.
Exactly. Okay, great. So you talk about this energy on raw food. Now, are you a vegan?
I'm more of a fruitarian.
Okay, but you
I
don't.
do have some cooked. I do have some steamed vegetables once in a while, but my predominant food is fruit.
Do you eat animal products at all?
No.
Okay. How long has it been since you haven't had an animal product?
Ah. Well, barring a few tastes of different things, through the years, most of my life.
Okay, so what made you decide to stop eating like most Americans and most people and just eat in a special way? What made you decide to do this?
Well, I was about 21 years old, and I was building my first house by hand, and I needed help, so I hired a carpenter off the beach down here, and he had got a hold of the Natural Hygienic book, one of Herbert Shelton's books. And as I was reading it, everything just made sense. No animal cooks their food before they eat it, white as humans. And then, of course, dead tissue is dead tissue. No, I mean, there's nothing healthy about dead tissue. And so, if you taste animal meat, what's good about it? People only eat it because of the Barbie sauce on it or whatever they do to it. But in reality, dead tissue is just dying cells or dead cells and stagnant blood. Yuck, putrefactive. So, never been something that even tasted good when you change your perspective.
Exactly, exactly. So you spoke about when I mentioned raw food, you said you were doing it all for a while. Now you do mostly because the energy was just through the roof and you're all about energy, you said. So tell us a little about your idea of energy and why raw foods is so good.
Well, when you look at foods, they're an extension of consciousness. And so all of this in creation is brought down through electromagnetic energy. So when you look at a piece of food physically, you don't realize that it has a consciousness to it, which is pure energy. And it also has a mental aspect to it and an emotional aspect to it. And then you have the physical embodiment of whatever it is, an orange, a grapefruit, or whatever. So there's so many components to fruit and herbs and everything here at this level of creation that man doesn't understand that it's vibrating with energy unless you tear it apart and you start breaking it at the molecular structures apart. You've got a major energetic food, and fruit just happens to have the highest. So when you're looking at a case of MS or Lou Gehrig's or Parkinson's or spinal cord injuries, you can't regenerate them on vegetable matter. We're Homo sapiens, and so we're frugivores. And so you need that high level of energy. Anytime you acidify, either cook or alter the chemistry of something, you're altering the main consciousness of it. You now cut that down. And now you have something, for an example, a piece of broccoli gives off about 9,000, let's say, units of energy. Cook it, it brings it down to about 1,000. Well, without energy, the human body, and if you keep eating, it's a law of homeostasis. You keep eating foods that are cooked and that give you no angstroms or no units of energy, it just brings down your systemic energy. Of course, you're the consciousness of the body, which is the main energy source, but everything cuts on that, from your mind and your emotions to the diet the chemistry you're interfacing with.
Now, when you say units of energy, are you talking about calories or are you talking about something beyond?
No, just frequencies of electromagnetic energy, just the energy, something, the auric energy that magnetic energy gives off. Some people call them angstroms, other people have different names for it. But there was a book called Secret Life of Plants, and it was all about the consciousness of plants. And in that, they had used a photometer and was able to measure these units of energy that foods and plants gave off from the raw state to the cooked state. And then David Wolf did a little of that, but with Kirlian photography.
Now, how, from a scientific standpoint, can that be measured to say like broccoli has this much and a banana has this much?
You'd have to use a photometer, and quite frankly, I'm familiar with photometers, but I've never done it myself either.
Well, when you mentioned that this food has this much energy and when it's cooked, it has less energy, how are you? I mean, we know the idea behind it about
Right.
the more you process it, but how do we know how much energy it has and so on?
That's a good question. You'd have to go back and been a lot of years. You have to go back and read Secret Life of Plants and see how they describe how they arrived at these figures.
Yeah. Now, I grow a lot of my food, and I know you do as well. And so now I've learned that there's not a lot of people that are successful at eating a raw vegan diet or just a vegan diet. And one of the issues I find is they're going to the store and they're buying fruit that has been picked who knows how long ago, unripe, flown across the world, where I'm eating the food right off my tree. When we're talking about this energy or just the quality of the food, however somebody wants to say it, do you find a big difference between store-bought fruit and fruit from your own trees in your
Oh,
backyard?
sure. Oh, sure. Absolutely. No question about it, because you got a radiation that's, most of these foods have been irradiated. They've been from overseas. And you just, you're sitting up, mostly when you buy them from a grocery store, you're eating them in a more fermented state. When you call it ripe, it's more of a fermented state as opposed to ripened off a tree. It's like pineapple. The difference between a ripe pineapple off a plant and then a pineapple that has been picked green and you had to wait until it turns yellow or orange and then eat it, it's like night and day.
Yes, exactly. Arnold Ehret said, "Power minus obstruction equals vitality." And what I always say is that if we're taking more energy to digest the food than we are to than what's in the food, then that's where we get into disease states. But as long as we have more energy than we're letting out, then we'll be okay. And that's why certain people have different levels of health based on how much vitality they have from that. Now, my question to you is, we know animal products and cooked food turn up on a negative energy scale because they're just so hard to process. And I always say, through digestion and getting rid of waste, if there's more waste left over, that's going to create so much more of work to get rid of the waste, leaving so less little vitality to deal with all the other things. So with that, go ahead.
Well, on top of that, you have to consider whether it's an alkaline ash food or an acid ash food. And because you're looking now at how it hits the blood, not only energetically, but chemically. So when you're talking about meats and grains and predominantly beans, of course, and say pasteurized products, especially milks and dairy products, you're looking at an acid ash food. And so the end product is acid ash. Well, medical doctors think that bicarbonate neutralizes all this. And of course, it doesn't change acidic elements into alkaline elements. So you have an acid hit there. Well, then that causes the blood to yank calcium out of its connective tissue because the blood can't get acidic. And then the byproducts of this acid ash goes through the colon, goes through the small bowel and colon and burns the walls. So this is why the World Health Organization has deemed these foods cancer-causing for GI tract cancer causing.
Yeah. So when it comes to things that are in bag, box containers, or cans, we know they're processed. What is worse, in your opinion? Somebody, let's say they're going out hunting and they kill a deer and they're eating it, versus somebody that goes to the grocery store and they buy like a raw food candy bar. I mean, do you see?
Well, if you compared maybe someone that had fruit and vegetables out of a grocery store and someone that ate fresh raw deer meat, I'll still say that the longevity would probably go on the grocery store side, only because meat is so acid forming that if you look at those in the northern climates like Alaska, their longevity levels are not there. Their calcium loss is high. All kinds of serious problems occur amongst the Alaskans and the northern group of people. So I would rather eat out of a grocery store than become a dead animal eater, live or not. But it is true that if you eat your meat raw, just freshly killed, it's very electrical. But most people don't eat raw meat. They cook it. Even if they kill it, they still cook it.
So it's like a double whammy. You got the animal
Double whammy.
and
Absolutely.
okay.
Absolutely.
Now you did mention fermented foods, and I know there are a lot of people that say fermented foods like sauerkraut and kimchi and these things are really good for our bodies. What's your opinion?
Well, I had a good friend, Dr. Bernard Jensen, and he took that philosophy on, and he ate most of his foods fermented. And you're already on the way out when you're in fermentation. So people bitch about having fungal problems, candida and the like. But then if you eat fermented foods, you're inviting them in you, because that's the group that takes care of that side of carbohydrates is your fungal community. So it's just like meats. You're going to invite bacterium involved in that side. So it's just, each side has its little creatures to help break it down and get us back to the atomic structures again. So it's like, why eat a food on its way out dying? That's not where the vitality is. The vitality is in its peak of ripeness, not it's going over the hill and about to be buried.
Sure, sure. So, how important do you think it is that somebody gets their blood tested to make sure they're getting what they need from a nutritional standpoint?
I think it's all crazy stuff, because I'm a biochemist as well as a naturopath, and I played with biochemistry till my mind went, nope, 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 nope. Health is simplistic. And when you try to deal with the blood, you're dealing in so many factors that I disagree with it, playing with that sort of thing. Why even waste the mental energy of that thinking? Because it makes you live in fear. And it's like, no, 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 no. Fresh fruit, especially like the way you raise it and stuff, has everything in it. If you go on a diet like that, there's no way you feel deficient. Especially if you fix the 4 phases that your body, if you consider the human body simply a food processor, and that you have digestion as its first process, you have absorption as its second process, you have utilization as its third process, and then, of course, elimination as final. If you're doing all those things properly, there's no way you feel deficient. Matter of fact, look at the regenerative cases that we put out there, how you can regenerate spinal cord injuries, how you can regenerate someone in a wheelchair. How do you do that when you're working with deficiencies? You don't. As a naturopath for 50 years, when early on, deficiencies was something the natural health people talked a lot about. And I always disagreed with that, because using supplements is like using pharmaceuticals. You're trying to treat a symptom instead of fixing causative factors. And when you look at the different foods like acid ash foods, you start seeing the mucus forming qualities, the plaque that builds up, and you don't understand the lymphatic system and the filtration through the kidneys and interstitial agglomulation. Pretty soon you don't understand any of that. And you're trying to treat what you think is a deficiency, and you simply just have to fix those factors in the human body, and there's no way you're deficient. Matter of fact, I have to say this, that man needs very little nutrition and very little energy. Man thinks he has to eat all this protein for energy. Of course, protein is not burned by the body for energy. Carbon is. And so, and if you don't have any obstructions to the flow of energy in your body, whether it be mucus or swelling or whatever it is that you're building up, acid build up in the body, you have boundless, endless energy. I don't have a problem with energy. Matter of fact, I have a problem with too much.
Sure, sure. I've found in taking energy from the body and just not being healthy, I wrote a book called The Daylight Diet. It's not just what we eat, but when we eat. And eating late at night, it doesn't digest the food as well as during the daytime.
Not smart anyway.
What's your opinion about that?
Same. Not smart anyway to eat late. Your breakfast is always breaking a fast from the night before, so you always do fruits there anyway. And then lunchtime, if you want to eat vegetables, you can have a salad. I prefer the fruit almost all day long. But sometimes I'll have salads. It depends how my consciousness, how I feel, and what my body says. Hey, go out and get yourself a salad. Then I'll go do that, or we'll make one at home. But you'll stay quite healthy and have longevity as long as you get your kidneys filtering. You understand the lymphatic system as we teach it. You understand that your body has a sewer system in it. It's a main immune system, and this is man's problems. When you start having sewer system problems, that's what medical doctors call diseases. And there
Yes.
is no such thing as diseases. That's just a made up concept by medical thinkers. It has no beginning and no end. There's no curative value to that thinking. So everything's getting lumped in autoimmune and stuff like that because they don't understand it. And it's like, really, there's only two sides of chemistry. And it's easy to understand what side you're in when you understand the nature of these two sides of chemistry.
Well, how much do you eat in a day?
You know, I'm not a big eater, surprisingly. I'm 5'9", 5'9.5". I weigh about 165. And I actually eat mangoes through the night too. I get up in the middle of the night. I don't need to sleep that much. To be honest with you, I don't, I have to have a little or I get really wired out. I'll go in the kitchen, have a mango, maybe 2 or 3 through the night even.
So,
So I don't eat a lot at any one given time. Don't need to.
so you eat sporadically throughout the day?
Do what now?
You eat sporadically throughout the day, or do you have set meal times?
Fair. I'm not a heavy fruit eater now. When I was 21 years old, I could have 15 large navels the size of grapefruits at one setting, and I could have 4 or 5 settings a day.
Wow. And
But now I don't need anything like that.
and why do you think that is? Why do you think you needed so much more then?
I don't know whether as I get older it's that way. I'm more involved in consciousness as I get older. Before I was teaching how to have out of body experiences and travels, but when I realized the consciousness behind that, that's when I needed less to eat for energy because I am pure energy.
Yeah, and so how much sleep do you actually get?
Fruit,
How much sleep do you get each night?
I would say 4 hours if I'm lucky.
Really? And do you
Oh
think
yeah,
that's more
no,
than enough to?
I don't get over 4 hours sleep a night. Well, when I was young and eating like a total fruitarian, I didn't sleep at all. I
What
was
it,
out of body. I laid my head down. I was out of body and traveling and working with friends of mine.
wow, wow. So like how many days would you stay up at a time?
Well, when I'm young, I didn't sleep for a good couple of years. And I got ratted out. I really got ratted out. So I had to start eating vegetables to bring myself down. I had to bring myself down and ground myself. And that's why I kind of work with more balance nowadays as I'm older. And in my healing, I try to work with balance as well. Because let's say you're a quad in a wheelchair or you have Lou Gehrig's in a wheelchair, you can't walk, and maybe you lost the ability to speak. It takes me about 5 to 6 months on fruit to get you up, walking, and talking again.
Now, so let me understand this correctly. You said you ate all fruit, you were fruitarian, and you didn't sleep for
No,
years. Now, when you
no.
say you didn't sleep, do you mean you dozed off or took a little nap?
Consciousness wise, fully awake constantly, 24/7. Body was laying there.
Okay, so your body's laying there, but your eyes are closed and you're resting. But when you
Yeah, but I'm out conscious. But that plays a major toll on your body.
well, I'm
Uh,
talking about physical sleep and rest. How long are you in the bed now every night?
oh, I suppose that. See, I was living in a Volkswagen van, so I would go to bed maybe around 10, and then I'm out. Immediately as I go down, I'm out. And then I might come back early morning, 5,
Okay,
6.
okay. And so tell us about exercise. What do you do for physical exercise now?
Well, I'm a carpenter, and I do a lot of outside work. If I don't do well sitting behind desks. I'm an old farm boy, so I just even though these years I've had to sit behind a desk and help people, it gets me. I got to get out and do something. I don't sit. I'm not a sedentary type of person.
Yeah,
That's why I'd rather do videos than read books and write and things like that. No, I need to get out.
yeah. So what got you into? I know you told us what got you into eating healthy, but what got you into herbs? I know you worked with Bernard Jensen, but what got you into the herbs?
Well, when I came out of the wood, I call it out of the woods. I was living in my Volkswagen van. I needed something to do for a livelihood. So I thought, well, I'll open up a health food store. So I opened up a health food store. Then I became a naturopath and a biochemist, and I'm thinking about opening up a practice. And where was I going with that?
Well, what got you into the herbs? You said you worked in a health.
Oh, yeah. So then I was using supplements. Everything was deficiency and all that, but it didn't fit in oneness consciousness, holistic consciousness, because holistic is everything is whole. Your food, your chemistry, and your foods are set the way nature sets it. And when you break it apart and say, I'm going to use not vitamin C, because that's a spin-off on the Krebs cycle, but I'm going to use calcium, or I'm going to use something separate as a mineral or whatever, that's not holistic thinking. And so it didn't fit with my consciousness. And then I had a whisper in my ear one night that says, look what I created. And that changed everything. I started looking at botanicals, and I started, oh my God, look what I can do with these herbs. I can regenerate tissue. I can do all kinds of things. And so I just became an herb lover. And then I taught a lot of classes on how to detoxify and stuff. And I started teaching people how to use them because I started using them. And I started out at my health food store selling herbs. I had 300 herbs behind me in jars. Some little kid about 9 years old would come in about every other day, wanted to know what that herb was. And I'd sell him a little bit of it. I said, go home and learn about that. He's only like 9, 10 years old, a genius. And pretty soon he was learning this massive amount of herbs, and I was learning with him as well. And so it was a lot of fun, and I realized holistically, botanicals are put on the planet for body parts. They're not for diseases. That's man-made concepts. You got herbs for the liver, herbs for the heart, herbs for the blood. You also have herbs for the lymphatic system. You have herbs for every single thing that the body's comprised of, cells and fluids. And it's amazing when you look at them from that perspective and use them in that way. That's why those formulas were made, and why we've been so successful with the regeneration of tissue.
Now, do you think it's possible that somebody can overdo herbs?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I do.
Do you think it's possible the way people are using things like strong, powerful herbs like garlic and things like this? Do you think they're overdoing it by doing it as a daily food?
I think if you're using garlic to cure things, you're mistaken. Garlic is okay, but it's a sulfur, and I really like more botanicals when you get into them. One of the strongest ones, of course, are the lymphatic ones. Like bloodroot, it'll pull a tumor right out your skin. Pokeroot, these type of herbs you use sparingly. So when I created these formulas, the percentages are perfect for you, and you can take them forever. But you go out and take a lot of pokeroot, and you're going to go down with that.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
So,
but most of your herbs, like for kidneys and then your glands, endocrine glands, things like this, you can take quite a lot of them. I only recommend a dropper full, and I take 3 when I do mine.
Sure. And do you think supplements supplements could be used as a short-term solution to a long-term situation, or do you think under no circumstances people should use supplements?
I think don't waste your money on supplements. I've been 50 years doing this, and I've had years of experience with orthomoleculars, and I don't recommend them at all. Why waste your money? Understand what your problem is and go after that, and you'll be totally successful in curing whatever your problem is, even regeneration of genetic memories of cells.
Sure. And what's your opinion of fasting?
You know what? I've done a lot of water fasting. I haven't done much dry fasting. Some people have had some problems dry fasting long term. I don't recommend that. I know I had a gentleman that his parachute didn't open. And so when he hit the water at about 90 miles an hour, well, he's pretty broken up. Well, I rebuilt him and got him running and walking. I got him back normal again. But he went on a 12-day dry fast, and he showed me his urine, and it looked like something from outer space. So he was really pulling the toxins out of him, no question. But I think you have to be careful about detoxifying too deep like that. Water fasting is a good way to go. But if you're dealing with tumors and you're dealing with someone that's emaciated, I do not fast them on water, because I need electricity in there. I need to properly hydrate interstitially. And most people don't know what that means, but you can't hydrate on acid-forming foods. And so you need foods with high electrons, and that's, of course, your carbohydrates raw. And that's when you start to truly hydrate. Well, then that starts this anionic movement in the body, and all these acid agglomerations start breaking up, whether it be tumors or mucus or whatever. And that's what you see when you detoxify.
Sure. And when you mentioned water, what type of water do you recommend?
Well, I recommended distilled water for a lot of years, but unless you're making it yourself, and then every metal seems to give off something, whether it's stainless steel, whatever, always gives off something negative. So I recommend a good mountain water that's robust in a glass bottle. So I use Aquapana from Italy. It's up in the mountains, and they use glass bottles. That's energetic. It tastes so good and energetic. But the water out of fruits are electrical.
Now, how big of how the unorganic fruits? How bad are they, or so they still okay? Unorganic,
The which?
the fruits that aren't organic, fruits
I
that are
still
not organic.
are not organic. Well, you know what the sad thing is about organic is that not a lot of farmers know how to raise organically. So I have people send me different fruit from, say, California that's organic, and let's say oranges. Some guy had a big grove there, organic, and the oranges were bitter. When you grow organically, your food is going to be so sweet. Your blueberries are going to just pop in your mouth. Your oranges you're going to go acid. This isn't acid. This is sweet as honey. So I think the big problem with organic growers is they don't know how to properly mulch and take care of their organics properly. But of course, organics are going to be always better. No question about it.
Well, how detrimental is the chemicals in the unorganic food on the body?
Neurotoxins. Neurotoxins, and this is one of the problems, is that neurotoxins on top of your average human, which has autonomic nerve problems from weak adrenal glands, you're going to affect your breathing. You're going to affect a lot of things with these neurotoxins. And so we have a society that loves neurotoxins. A lot of the perfumes and colognes are neurotoxic. Well, that affects your ability to breathe, your ability for the autonomic to function. And then you've got to detoxify them out of the body. And neurotoxins are a little bit more difficult than, let's say, hemio or excitotoxins.
You spoke earlier. I want to talk a little about your website and your herbs, but before we do that, you spoke earlier about this. You're not eating much and so on. Do you think if a person doesn't go to the bathroom every day, they're having issues, or do you think it depends on how much a person eats?
No, I don't think it's about amount. Not at all. I think it's what. And if you're on a raw diet and you're not moving your bowels well, I submit that you have serious weak adrenal glands, your blood pressure is probably low, and your autonomic nervous system is low. Because you really want to have at least one bowel movement a day. I'm all raw. I'll have a bowel movement a couple hours after I eat.
And do you ever do enemas or recommend colonics or anything like this?
If you need it and you're locked up like a rock, you might have to go get a colonic. But in thinking that a colonic cures things, not true. And then you can't get up into the small bowel. We had a local colon therapist that claimed she knew how to open up that ileocecal valve and drain the small bowel. But nothing cleans the GI tract better than a fruit diet. It electrifies. It's astringent. They're like grapes. They really clean the wall nicely. They astringe a little bit so you can pull some interstitial stagnation out through the bowel wall. When you do colonics, unless you're using some herbs and stuff, and I don't know that many colon therapists that use products like that. If you need an enema and you're bound up, get yourself opened up. But a lot of people try to implant from the colon. If I've got a case that can't consume orally, then we go to stomach tubes. Because we need to get to the small bowel, not the colon.
So what would you say to somebody who eats a raw food diet that's not going to the bathroom every day? They're eating a fruitarian diet.
Well, like we were talking earlier, I've got some bowel formulas out there that are superb and non-addictive. They're incredible. They help to give a little bit of kick up to the liver, the hepatic area, and the pancreatic area, and they just work really smooth. At the same time, I highly recommend you work on your adrenal glands, which is where you produce the neurotransmitters to increase myelin sheath integrity there. and
Now,
start working on your nervous system a little bit.
now, everybody, Dr. Morse has wonderful information out on his website. I'm going to put the link below the video, and he helps people with all sorts of diagnoses to heal with herbs and with food. And so you can contact him. But Dr. Morse, tell us your website, and I'm going to put the link below. And then I want to talk about some specific conditions for people that are
Sure,
watching. So, what's
sure,
your website?
absolutely. Well, it's Dr. Morse, Morse, .tv is our main, where all our videos, and it's almost like a truth platform. We have a lot on the backs and everything else there. But we have also Dr. Morris .health, which takes you to my school. I have my own school and takes you to all different sites from that perspective, how to get to the herbs and order the herbs and stuff like that.
Okay, so I'm going to go name 3 or 4 conditions right now, and there's so many more conditions. And if somebody's watching that's suffering from one of these popular conditions, maybe you can get a head start, and Dr. Morse could mention some herbs you could start taking. But I definitely recommend, if you can, you do coaching, right? You do consultations.
I don't anymore,
Do
but
you have
we
people?
have a detox center here that we have counselors there, and I'm here right beside them. But
Okay,
anymore, I'm just doing videos. It's
but
just
you work with people that do counseling, and you work with those counselors.
yep, yep.
Okay, great, because coaching definitely helps people to know they're on the right track. So,
And then
let
we
me,
have a lot of students from our schools that's helping people all over the world. So, like I said, I have my own school, and our graduates are out there and doing an incredible job at healing the same way.
now tell us about your school. Is it currently in progress right now?
Oh yeah, it's an online school. It's called the International School of the Healing Arts. It's working itself up to a doctorate in naturopathy, but we have physiology, anatomy, A and P. We have I have 3 courses: level 1, 2, and an iridology course, how to read the eyes, because learning iridology is an incredible science, and how to determine your own genetics and your own lymphatic problems. And so it's a great school. We have color influences. We have, it's a site that we're building, because I've had my own school of detoxification for about 30 years
Now, you mentioned you can work up to your doctorate. Does that mean you can get credits towards your doctorate
now.
degree, or
Well,
does
we're
that?
going to give the doctorate. We're going to give it once we get it, all the classes put together, because I still got to get a botany course, a biochemistry course set up, some botanical courses. See, I'm into clinical herbology, and I would like to get someone like Mary Gladstar, someone that will do a regular iridology or a regular herbology course. I'm more clinically oriented. In other words, I don't take you on an herb walk, although I can, but I don't take you on an herb walk and show you herbs. I'm going to show you how to use these herbs in a clinical setting to be able to pull you out of, say, cirrhosis, or if you had a stroke, how do you get yourself back? Things like that.
So, when it comes to doctors, I know people, some health teachers out there that are doctors, a chiropractor or a nutritionist. What is your official degree in, or your official teaching in, when you
I'm
say
a nature, I'm a naturopath. So a naturopath depends on the school. There's 2 schools in America. They're medically owned, so you're not taught the true naturopathic view. The naturopathic view is you don't treat symptoms, you go to the cause of a problem and address the cause, and then the symptom, of course, cures itself and is gone. Naturopathy is the science of nature, so you're talking about chemistry, physics, that sort of thing. You get into plants, you're into botany. In other words, you're looking at behind the scenes, colors, their effect and vibrational effects of colors, smells. Everything has energy to it and chemistry to it, and you have to learn all of that. So it's the naturopath is the main healer on the planet. Chiropractics is a therapeutic modality, as is all the other ones, massage, your needles, all of these things are all therapeutics. They're not curative in themselves. You got to go in chemistry and fix what you're dealing with inside the body.
now, besides the school that you're working on here and creating? I know there was a place, I believe it was in Washington, was it Baxter or somewhere, where you could actually get like a degree in they call it holistic studies and naturopath and all these. that was a long time ago. Is there any places in the United States that currently you can do that, like
That's
universities
good.
and things?
That's good. You got Bastyr and Southwest. Those are about the only two standing ones that are medically owned. But they teach you the wrong things. I've had their students come and sit with me to get their clinicals, and you spend all those years, 4 years, 9 months, and you can't cure anything. And it's been using supplements to treat, and you just can't go anywhere with supplements to treat. You might help a symptom a little bit, but you're not curing the causative problems of that. And in chemistry, most of your causative problems fall on the acid side of chemistry. And that pulls you into trying to understand the lymphatic system, which most of your pro A&P books. Matter of fact, our class has a A&P professor, a medical professor, and we talk about the ignorance of A&P books even. They do not understand the lymphatic system. And one big word for the lymphatic system is your body sewer system. The universal question is, how does your body, or 100 trillion cells, get rid of their waste, which are always acids? And so the medical community thinks your body just dumps these acids back into the venous system, into the blood. You, as a chemist, you can't acidify the blood, not lose all the calcium in your connective tissue. That's idiocy. So there's another system that deals with acids, and it's a lipid or cholesterol-based system called the lymphatic system. Of course, all the cancers are all lymphatics. All the inflammation. Almost every symptom you name falls under the acid sky.
So there's a lot of controversy about cholesterol. They say good and bad, and some differences. So tell us, what is cholesterol in your opinion, and is it good or bad to have?
Well, you have LDL, and so that's low density lipids. That's mainly your lymph fluids. So when you spit up mucus, that's from the lymphatic system. These are all anti-inflammatories or antacids, for a better explanation of that. And your HDLs, of course, are phospholipids. They're in the cell wall to protect the cell from acid damage, because interstitially, or the fluids around a cell, are only two: blood and lymph. One is the kitchen, one is the sewer system. That's simple. And the lymphatic system goes the spleen, which cleans the blood of its waste. But your main eliminative organs of your sewer system is your kidneys and your skin, which is dubbed the third kidney. Your blood does not have eliminative organs tied to it.
So if somebody came to you and said they had high LDL,
they have a lot of acidosis in their body, and they have to get that out of there and back that down, or they're going to break down their cells, start having a lot of atypical cells, and then eventually they'll become what they call cancer, but they're called degenerative cells.
well, besides their diet, how else can they have high LDL?
Just from not filtering the acids. You could actually have a raw food diet and still die from tumors because you're not filtering. I brought out filtration of the kidneys way back. When I was living in my van, it's a Volkswagen van, so I have to pee at night. I just use a jar. And then I'd look at the jar in the morning of urine, and there would be sediment in the bottom of it. Well, I didn't know any better. I thought, oh, look what I got out last night. And I kept thinking about that. Well, as I became a biochemist and naturopath, I started reading urinalysis and blood work. I kept seeing all these urinalysis come back clear. And I'm going, clear? Your urine can't be clear. And then it just dawned on me, well, they're not filtering. And then that's when I brought out the filtration essentiality of the kidneys. Because if you pee in a jar and it's clear, you're in trouble. Where's your sewage going from all your cells? And those are acids. Well, that's what tumors are filled up. That's what swelling and pimples and boils and cysts and all this. That's all just acids.
Well, can it mean at all that somebody doesn't have as much toxins as somebody else? For example, if somebody eats a big heavy meal, even animal meat or something, and then they go to the bathroom, it's going to be a very dark yellow, their urine possibly. But if somebody's on a water fast and they've been doing it for years and they drink a good amount of water and their urine's clear, does that mean they're not filtering, or could it just mean they don't have as many nutrients?
Okay, so filtration of your urine looks like that. You see snow in it. If it's clear, no matter what color, you're not filtering. Chemistry will change the color of it. But if you dig deep, you can get some nasty colorations out of that. Just like when you detoxify, you'll get clear mucus at first. Then you'll move into the subacute mucus, which is a little deeper. You've had it in your body longer from your mama. It's yellow. And then you get into the green-brown mucus. That's a deep level of chronic congestion or acidosis. And then if you dig deep enough, a lot of people will get the black mucus out of them. And that's when you're really in the degenerative levels.
Well, what about
the lungs or wherever it is?
Sure. So what about somebody who drinks an excessive amount of water and the urine's always clear? Is that a bad sign or a good sign?
Yeah, your urine should still never be clear. If you drink too much water, yeah, it'll thin things out, I suppose, and you could argue that, but you're not seeing any sediment or mucus in your urine whatsoever. You're not filtering.
Okay.
And it's hard sometimes to get the kidneys to filter because they're swollen just like everything else in your body. So to get your kidneys to filter, you got to go off fruit. We use herbs to help you filter. That's a big thing on our sites with all our followers about kidney and kidney filtration. And of course, you can hear all the comments that once the kidneys are filtering, the tumors go away, everything starts to clear up, the skin clears up, whether it's psoriasis or whatever. If you don't filter, you're not going to change the outcome. And the more you eat, you see, it doesn't matter what you eat. It can be fruit. The byproducts of the Krebs cycle or the breaking down of metabolism of your foods always yields acids. Byproducts of breathing is acidic.
Well,
so everything yields acid elimination. And so you can be, like I said, a fruitarian. If you're not filtering, you're going to be bit back by your own acid waste.
Well, how confusing can that be? Because take me, for example. So I eat like a good raw vegan, high food diet. So if I have a durian or something, or something, a heavier meal, a recipe, a raw food recipe or something, my urine will be yellow. But if I eat very little that day, let's say I fast that day and I just have to have a good amount of water, be white. But the next day it could be yellow again. So does that mean, but there's filtering going on, but not on a consistent basis?
No, that has nothing to do with filtration. That's a chemistry you're consuming. Just like you're saying, it's a chemistry you're consuming can change the color of urine and the odor of urine. You want to smell like the food you're eating. If your body's clean, you will have the body odor of what you're eating. So if you eat if you're a bacon eater or a hog eater, you'll smell like a hog. I mean, and if you're a coconut eater, you'll smell like all your fluids, believe it or not, all of them will turn like that. And it's just the purity of your body or not.
So what's the difference between the chemistry changing the color of your urine versus
because basically it's what you're eating now. When you're filtering, you're looking at interstitial waste from around 100 trillion cells. That's miles of waste being pushed and moved through your kidneys and filtering out of that. You can't drink water and force all of that because you got miles of that. So it's a big part hydration, which happens with carbon-based foods. And that, of course, is your fruits, berries, melons, and your vegetables. Outside of that, almost everything you eat is dehydrators. And anytime you dehydrate the body, you create an agglomulation. An agglomulation simply means that nobody's moving fast out of your body, and to the point where you can develop swellings, inflammation as an immune response from acidosis. You start to see tumors, boils, pimples, things like that, hair loss. You start to see things fall off of the body and things growing on it, like moles and things like that.
Sure. You seem to know so much about chemistry. Let me ask you, what's your opinion about urine therapy?
Yeah, I totally disagree with it, especially if you're filtering, because you're recycling what your body's trying to get rid of. Most people don't filter, and so some people claim that it has nutrients and that stuff in that. Well, then you're not metabolizing properly either. Your urine is byproducts, and your urine should be slightly acidic. Well, you're not meant to eat acid-forming foods or drink acid liquids. Your blood is alkaline in nature, at least 7.4. And when you bring in acidic chemistry, your blood steals calcium out of its basement layer of connective tissue. So pretty soon you see varicose veins, spider veins, maybe you bruise easy, things like this, capillary bleeds, goes on and on and on. skeletal problems, these sort of things, scoliosis. You can go on for miles that way. So your body, during the process of metabolism and the Krebs cycle, everything breaks down and spins off as an acid. Ascorbic acid is a good example to spin up on the Krebs cycle. Well, you took a medical doctor to tell you that you needed ascorbic acid for health. No, you don't. People are using intravenous vitamin C treatments for cancer and getting hardening of the arteries from it. No, you got to be smart about what you're doing.
What about
And
the anti-inflammatory properties of urea?
urea, I don't know any anti-inflammatory properties of urea. Be honest with you, that's just my take on that. You're looking at your nitrogen side of chemistry. Nitrogen side of chemistry is not anti-inflammatory, it's more inflammatory. Most of these foods that are acid-ash foods we were talking about are nitrogen-based foods. We need carbon for the energetic principles of ATP, ADP, AMP, all the energetic principles that cells need. That comes from the carbon foods. Amino acids, of course, are very, very little need. We have this over idea of protein, and that's just not true. When you look at mother's milk, it's predominantly carbon, half of that's lipids, and less than 1% is protein, which in the form of amino acids. Well, that's your carriers and any structural repair, things like that, or growth.
What's your opinion, and not pharmaceutical supplements, but whole foods in supplement forms? What's your opinion about those, like green powders and things like this?
I think that's the second best way to take them. I have superfood blends that I offer because, I came out with a baby formula. It's not quite out on the market. I've had to take years cutting it down. Too much nutrition. I didn't want to bring baby gorillas on the market. You didn't take much to make someone very healthy. It doesn't take pounding a lot of nutrition to do that. I do recommend superfood blends if you feel like you're not absorbing properly and you feel like you want to build up like bodybuilders. We don't go to the proteins. We go to like alfalfa, kelp, dulse, things like this, where you get higher amino acids, but you also get tons and tons of nutrition, but it still keeps it in an alkaline slurry. Then you don't lose your kidneys, because an acid-ash diet like protein, you're going to lose your kidneys and your GI tract.
Okay.
And then there goes the lower back, L4, L5 is going to go on you because that's your kidney.
Well, I told you I wanted to get to three conditions or so on. We'll do that, and then I have a few more questions before we end here. So,
Sure.
and thank you for this. You're doing wonderful. I really appreciate your time.
Oh,
So,
anytime. I love helping
tell
people.
us, when I was younger, I suffered from ulcerative colitis or Crohn's disease. So, if somebody came to you with this issue, how would you address that?
Okay, so going back to the lymphatic system, everywhere you have cells, cells have to be able to be fed, but they also equally have to eliminate their waste. So when you look at the GI tract, the colon, or the small bowels, because if your colon is backed up like that and you're seeing high inflammatory issues, your small bowel is too. And so you're very malabsorbed when you have these type of conditions. And what it is interstitial coagulation or glomulation of waste. Not that you can see that, you can see it through the eye in iridology. And it really helps you when you understand iridology and you get an eye analysis, or you learn to do it yourself, you will begin to see what your colon really looks like. So what happens is it's just your own cellular waste burning back on you. So again, you're going back to kidney filtration. Once you get kidney filtration and you can hydrate interstitially, you'll see all these acids coming out. Any ulcerative issues will be repaired and your body goes back to normal again. When you're working on your kidneys, you simultaneously are working on your adrenal glands, which are on top of. And they just happen to control the autonomic nervous system, which is peristalsis, is one of the things. And all of that starts to come back and work together. But if you don't remove acids around cells, you can kiss those cells goodbye.
Besides the actual physical operation of digestion and going to the bathroom and how you're feeling and how much energy you have, is there a scientific way to measure the kidney function and all these other organs that you're talking about not working well because of the issues of
I'd
those
say that
factors?
iridology is the only real science that we have to look interstitially. The medical profession, for an example, most of your professional anatomy physiology books claim there's no lymphatic system in your brain. Well, the University of West Virginia 4 years ago found two of them. And they made a claim that they couldn't find the lymphatic system in the brain in cadavers. It had to be a live specimen. So these are very thin, viscous pathways, I suppose. They also had made note that a lot of your lymph vessels piggyback your vascular vessels, which is highly interesting to me because in physiology, the question is, either through osmosis or diffusion, does the lymphatic system pull acids through the blood walls and into the system? Because again, your blood cannot be acidic without you compromising your life of the entity. So your body has to have a whole distinct system that gets rid of acids. And this is why your lymphatic system is a lipid or cholesterol-based system. Your water electrolytes are going to burn like crazy in acidic mediums. You can never get on top of that. That's why, again, lipids are vital to lymphatic health.
I think we could apply what you're saying to every diagnosis out there.
Thank you.
Yes.
That's when you realize how simple this is. You start having an aha moment, and then you get out of the intellectual academics of it, and then you can cure anything on the planet. And we've done that and demonstrated that. And every time I do a video, I go, here's the broken record again.
Yeah, exactly. So
there's only two sides of chemistry. There's only two. Pick one. And each has its own distinct effect. One is alkaline, which is electrolyte, power, energy, and one is acidic, which is generally byproduct. It's like we're bitching about pollution in the air, but that's byproduct from car exhaust. In other words, you burn alkaline chemistry in your carburetor, but you eliminate acid waste out of your exhaust system.
Well, I think Arnold Ehret summed it up really well because he simplified it. Now with the alkaline and acid, even those words are more confusing because Arnold Ehret just said mucus-forming foods or non-mucus-forming foods, and the mucus-forming foods were the acidic. And the non-mucus formers, and non-mucus formers is what they call alkaline today. And
total flat truth.
If you're taking more alkaline or majority alkaline, you can get away with a little acidic. But once you start getting too much acidic, that's where the problems clog up the plumbing system, so to say.
Well, clog it up with mucus, swelling and inflammation. And of course, acids are corrosive, right? No one wants to have acids thrown in their face. So they're corrosive to the tissues. And then you have the alkaline side, which comes and repairs that. So it's just that simple. If you go to both ends, you're going to burn. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about foods that are considered alkaline forming and foods that are considered acidic forming. And the acid side of chemistry will tear you up. And that's why, whether it's ulceration on the skin or psoriasis, I don't care what it is, acids are always behind that movement.
I know a chemist, an herbalist that once told me, and he works with herbs. He wasn't an official herbalist. He once told me the body doesn't like herbs, and that's why when we take herbs in, it actually stimulates the body to rejuvenate the organ, to get rid of what you're putting in, and that's why they seem to work. What do you think about that?
Everything has a state of consciousness to it, meaning it has a meaning for existence. And there's just, when you work with herbs as much as I have and seen what I've seen, you just use the word magic. You can't put a finger on it because they also have their astral or emotional counterparts. They have their mental. So when you go on a fruit diet, it will actually bring peace to the thought processes. It'll actually bring more control over your emotional states. There's a lot more to a plant than just the chemistry of it. But that chemistry the plants are full of great chemistries. All the vitamins and minerals, or co-vitamins anyway, they're full of all the stuff that man takes in supplement form. Where do you think man gets it? So really your plants are just the same with fruits though. But we're frugivores. The Homo sapien is more primate than it is anything else. 96%, quite obvious. So when you're looking at a Homo sapien without fruit, you lose your electrical abilities, your thought processes and stuff. We're not elephants, horses, and cows. We're not herbivores. Omnivores are dogs, hogs, bears, and chickens. We're not omnivores. Of course, we're far from a carnivore.
Okay, two more questions before we close the interview here. One is about a product that I've been seeing great results with my clients. It's astaxanthin, which is a liquid algae. I don't know if you've heard of astaxanthin.
I've not heard of it.
Okay, yeah, it's a liquid algae. I've seen wonderful result with that. So I want to know your opinion. But if you haven't heard of that, that's fine. We'll go to the next question.
Yeah, I mean, blue-green algae from Klamath Lake, a lot of algae have been pushed. Uh, if you're in Florida, algae is not considered healthy at all, toxic, especially the blooms and stuff on algae. But again, when you're getting into the greens, I would consider the algae, I would go more kelp or dulse. Now you're getting into power-packed foods, high in minerals and high in everything. But again, when you start fixing the agglomulation in the human body, and you start improving your digestive ability. Absorption is a big one. If you've had Crohn's, your big worry is malabsorption. So you got to fix the ability to absorb your nutrition. Then you have utilization of this chemistry. How does the body utilize what you just digested and absorbed in it? And that's called adrenal steroid. Well, most people have adrenal gland problems big time. They have sugar metabolism problems, all types of metabolism problems. And then, of course, your rate of metabolism deals with thyroid. But then most people don't eliminate the byproducts. We're not talking through the bowel. We're talking about systemic, interstitially. And that goes through urine. So most people are not filtering worth a hoot. And so most people's bodies are full of edemic issues or inflammatory issues because of the inability of their body to remove these wastes. And once you fix that, you turn your body around like nobody's business. Amazing.
Well, I live next to a place called Hippocrates Health Institute, and they don't push a high fruit diet, but they push a high sprout diet. What's your opinion of sprouts?
I knew Ann Wigmore personally. I've been 50 years here, so I disagreed with her. You know, especially with wheatgrass. I'm an old farm boy. If you're going to go to greens, go to alfalfa. Major difference. But I don't. We're not horses or cows. We don't need that level of amino acids. You know, I raised horses. We were farmers, and we had horses, of course, and we trained them for barrel racing and things like this. And we want to build them up. We give them alfalfa. But I never saw a horse turn down an apple.
Sure. What's another last question is the essential fatty acids from a vegan standpoint. Where do you recommend people get the essential fatty acids? Not only the type EFAs that are in.
Yeah. You know what? I don't.
In general.
I number one don't go by calorie counts, and I number two don't go by essential fatty acids or complete protein ideas and stuff like that. That's all bull crap. You know, that's all from loose-brained biochemists and stuff. I have to call myself a loose-brained biochemist because I am. But you have no deficiencies, especially if your fruit is organic and ripe properly. You just don't have any deficiencies. And you don't have any need for energy, any of this. You're not counting calories because you become energy. There's a tribe that's a raw food tribe. I can't remember New Guinea or somewhere. They take off on a 26-mile run. Their blood pressures, respiration, all their stats are the same when they get back as when they started.
Wow.
You know, I've always said it's about obstructions to the flow of energy. And all this mucus you're talking about, all these acids and proteins that build up interstitially are obstructions to the flow of energy. You start removing the obstructions to the flow of energy, even eliminative energy, you will see that the energy comes in you. You can't burn it all. Forget calories. You just can't burn it all.
Dr. Arnold Ehret's formula for life: power minus obstruction equals vitality.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
and when you are consciousness, when you realize who you really are, not your bodies, but who you really are, and you move into the present moment, into the now, you're living on pure conscious, pure energy. And it's sometimes you have to seek a balance because it's difficult when you're embodied with a physical structure.
so tell us what the rest of the day here. What time are you going to go to sleep tonight, or at least lay down? And when do you get up?
So I will now at my age and all the stress I'm under, I'll go lay down probably about 11 to midnight. I'm back up at about 2. I'm back up at about 3. I'm back up at about 5, and then I stay up about 6 on.
Okay, great. Well, I
Yeah,
appreciate your time here. You were right in the middle of your day, and you're wonderful. Thank you so much for.
Love you.
I want everyone to get to Dr. Morse's website. I'll put the links below the window. below the video, and all of everything that he's doing there is great. There's so many videos of him online. You can check out his interviews he's done. He had so many questions. Thank you, Dr. Morse, for taking the
Thank,
time out to talk to us.
thank you for having me. Love you, man.
All right. Have a great day, and I hope to meet you someday.
Yeah, you will.
All right.
Probably in your dreams.
Thank you. Have a great night.